Greetings from the old arcade in downtown Cleveland, Ohio. Today is Monday, July 14th, 2025 at 1:21 p.m. Eastern Time. It's about, I think it's around 82 degrees Fahrenheit outside. Oftentimes we come in the old arcade at Christmas time. I just stopped in the post office that's right here to our right. Dropped off a little package and figured, might as well start the live stream here because this is one of the sites that appeared in the Superman movie that is doing very well at the box office and represents the city of Cleveland very good. You can see they actually have the little marking on the ground where it says stand where Lois and Superman stood, up and away. And then they have the shot over there, which we'll get closer to in a second, that shows the picture from the movie. But I believe, I haven't seen the movie myself, but it's pretty much in most of the trailers. I think they are there initially and then they sort of levitate up to a certain height. And that's where it's talking about the scene that was filmed in our atrium, up and away. It's actually one of DC's most popular box office openings. That's great to see that Cleveland was featured so good and the movie's doing well. Maybe they want to come back here again for a sequel or something. It's also showing outside how when the Rising Star coffee roasters for the movie was transformed into Jitters Coffee. The cigar bar was turned into Wesley's Sweet Shop during the filming. Iconic street names were featured on set, including a tribute to the original Clark Kent with the name Reeves for the Metropolis Center. And then the arcade post office became the official fan merchandise store for the Metropolis Meteors. So I guess that signage would have been somewhere, maybe right there. It's nice that they have some little nuggets featured there as well. We're going to exit the old arcade for the moment and walk out to Superior Avenue. I did a live stream Friday evening. It was a little bit abbreviated, but I said I would try to do sort of a part 2 live stream today. It's nice that the weather's pretty pleasant. Let me think where I want to stand when I tell this next part though. Maybe I'll go across the street and stand sort of near the Eastman Reading Garden by the public library. But first take a good look at Superior Avenue because that's one of the talking points in the way it's structured. And I'll stand here in the shade as we say hello to our little book helper friends that are with us. We're going to talk about a few projects that are slated for the future in downtown Cleveland. Tried to do a couple printout renderings to help illustrate some of these. I'll try pulling them out. So one of them is the Superior Midway project. And I've alluded to this in the past, but this is where they're going to change it to have dedicated bike lanes down the middle of Superior, and it's supposed to go from Public Square all the way to East 55th Street. So it would begin, I assume, on the eastern side of Public Square, and you'll see it go all the way down the middle, because right now this is just one big wide street. It doesn't really support the vehicle traffic because it's never super busy. The only time you really see a huge influx is when there's a parade, specifically the St. Patrick's Day parade. So that's something that'll have to be discussed and reworked for the future. But fortunately we do have a bit of wind here because I'm trying to showcase the paper. Maybe if I lay it flat I can show it better that way. So this is what the future rendering from East Roadway, which is Public Square, to East 18th would be. Remember, this whole thing would go down to East 55th Street, but the plan for East Roadway to East 18th Street would be to convert it so there's 2 lanes on either way of the midway. You'd have the bike lane in the middle with tree line, treescape. Bus lanes would represent one of the 2 lanes on each side, so that's where buses could go. And most of the buses that use Superior only use it within downtown Cleveland, and they deviate to other paths after that. So there would only be 1 lane that's truly dedicated to traffic, which I think would be fitting enough based on your typical traffic flow that I see. And then they would be really promoting, like I said, the bike lanes in the middle to, you know, that would give me vibes of how New York City, for example, has the bike lanes leading up to the Brooklyn Bridge. I have some more pictures I printed out. Initially, they were supposed to potentially start this construction process in 2025, but I believe they've been trying to seek more feedback from businesses and other things. So the revised timeline they came up with a few months ago is that they're still working on the detailed design through part of 2026. So that's still ongoing. Then they'll be working on the bid, and the expected start of construction would be this time next year. So summer 2026. I'm not sure how easy it's going to be to, you know, traverse Superior Avenue, but hopefully then we'll be able to show some of the construction progress, and then the construction is supposed to last through 2028. So it is a long project. We'll see if they do it in phases though. Like maybe they'll complete East Roadway to East 6th Street first, and then they'll start off, move to the next section. I'm not sure how exactly they'll phase that part. Let me get the other, there's one more printout that I had related to this. So this one, the first screenshot I showed you was Public Square to East 18th. This would be East 18th to East 55th Street. So a little bit different because going more eastbound, further away from downtown Cleveland, the bus lane would turn into a combination of a parking lane in some spots or a turn lane, and then you would have your same one lane for traffic as well as the typical bike lane in the middle. And they would still maintain the sidewalk in both Public Square to East 55th on both sides of the street. And then this last screenshot related to this shows just an up-close rendering of what the bike path would look like, having the nice trees and greenery in the middle. And then when you're actually crossing an intersection, the type of thing you would have with the green markings and hopefully being able to dodge traffic if the traffic signals are all set up correctly. So let me put these 2 screenshots away now. Since it's windy, it's a little bit challenging to make sure the papers don't fly away. There we go. Now let's walk through the Eastman Reading Garden, where it's nicely populated today. We're still near the lunchtime hour since it's 1:30 p.m. You also got the water fountain going. You know what would be cool is you really could take a page out of Bryant Park's book, and this would be, because it's typically shaded no matter what time of day you're in. I think it'd be cool if they had like chess sets, backgammon sets, and a few other games that you could loan out and just play during the daytime here. My brother and I, we did that in Bryant Park in 2019. I assume they still offer that, but it was free. We just went up to a certain booth and got the backgammon pieces and played a quick game of backgammon before we had to hop on one of the subway system's trains to get back to the airport. So that was on the very last day of our trip, our 1-week trip that we did to New York City. must have laid fresh, I'll call it manure or whatever, mulch throughout the city, because I walked all the way from CSU, this is before the live stream, I walked from CSU to the post office after grabbing a couple of slices of Rascal House pizza. The reason I walked instead of taking the 55 bus is I was walking toward the spot where the 55 bus would be. I was probably a minute and a half away from it, and I could see it blow by. I was like, yeah, I'm just not going to wait for the 29 minutes for the next one. But anyway, during the whole walk, I just kept smelling that fresh smell, and sure enough, there's the vehicle where they're shoveling it out. So they must be going up and down the whole city doing that right now. Welcome, Fernando Martin. So that's where your time zone is, your good evening, good afternoon from us though. So Fernando, you also asked, have you made a walking or riding stream on West Clinton Avenue? West Clinton. Where is West Clinton? I know of Clinton Avenue that is sort of near between Cleveland and Brooklyn on the back road. It has a few industrial businesses. There they are, shuffling the fresh stuff. So all this stuff here is nice and fresh. Laura says, hi Chris, nice to see you back in Cleveland. Yeah, it was great to be able to make a couple of trips within a short time frame here. I was just here like 2.5 weeks ago. Back for another little stint, and then I have a very, 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 very short Cleveland trip coming up at the end of July too. That one will truly be very short. Like, I think I'll be physically in the city for only a day and a half. And that one is designed around Cleveland Browns training camp. So I scheduled it where I got tickets to 2 Berea training camp practices, one on a Tuesday afternoon and one on the following Wednesday morning. So weather depending, I'm hoping to attend one of them, because then I fly back out Wednesday evening. So if the weather's good, I'll be able to knock out that annual tradition and give a tour of how the Berea setup is this year. Maybe also get a look at the further deepening of the Haslam's control over Berea, where they've been purchasing houses and land to expand their facilities. Fernando Martin says, off Detroit. Yeah, I'll have to look at Google Maps. It's not ringing a bell right now with West Clinton. I know West Clifton, I think, which is near St. Peter's Church. Unless you mean West Clifton, perhaps. I have not done a video strictly on West Clifton. I've been close to there. I may have ridden like past it when I've done a few Halloween videos on one of those side streets. Perishable Goods 13, welcome. Same to Allocated Brain and George and Richard. George says, wow, the weather finally got better. I must be dreaming. Well, yesterday it was nice too. So I haven't posted the video yet because I just filmed it, but I have it uploading to the channel. So something you guys can look forward to is yesterday me and a special guest of mine went to Lakewood, Ohio early in the morning. And the combined footage, I'm going to release it in 2 parts. The combined footage is about 2 hours and 15 minutes, but it's basically us just doing a casual bike ride through Lakewood, some of the side streets, down Madison, part of Detroit Avenue, also the Lakewood Park, and also we took part in like a little scavenger hunt that the Bike Lakewood organization was doing. So be sure to look for that video or those videos later this week. But yeah, the weather was nice yesterday morning. It was like 72 degrees in the morning and it was overcast. So when we started that bike ride yesterday, it was perfect. Then we were out a while because we were taking our time. It wasn't like we weren't speed racing. Then around noon or so, maybe 1 p.m., it got sunny out, which was still pleasant, but you know, you're gonna get hot in the sun. But then just from all those hours combined, you're not gonna be able to tell too much, but my arm, it was really bad looking yesterday. Now you can't even tell it already faded. But if I should have took a picture in the mirror yesterday, because like I look like a ghost wherever my shirt isn't, and the rest of it looked beet red, just like a tomato. What else did I miss in the comments? Oh yeah, and today's weather's nice too. But Richard said, flying to Cleveland in November from the United Kingdom to watch the 49ers. Oh, that's great. Well, that's perfect for I'm here right now. At least when you come here, through 2028, the Browns will still be playing on the lakefront. As you see also, by the way, the beautiful cut grass. Look how freshly cut that is. It's nice to see the back and forth directions of the lines, you know, the light green and dark green intermixed. But yeah, if you need any tidbits, I don't know if you've been to Cleveland before, if you're flying from the United Kingdom or if it's just a special trip, but if you need any tidbits on what to see, always feel free to leave comments, like what to see around the city. Someone is coming from, I forgot what country they said, in January, but it's after the Brown season is over. But I've been giving them some tips on Instagram when they messaged me about it. Chris Hepp said free Hulk Hogan beer. Tom Seeley, hello. Sadie Lamp Duel says I can see the lake. Yes, positioned on the beautiful lake. And that was one of the things when I was at Lakewood Park yesterday. I don't know if, I mean, I showed the lake on video, but when I was off video, we were just gazing at the beautiful Lake Erie, reminiscing, and it's just a pretty sight, especially how bright blue the water is. You know, that's one of the best features of Cleveland that outsiders, I think, just wouldn't quite envision would be here. Allocated Brain says that he was in Lakewood early afternoon, had to go to a meeting with the WCSB group in Madison Park. It was nice. Yeah, Madison Park was our very early, I drove around that on video yesterday, but that was probably, let's see here, I think we left at 9 a.m. I was probably in Madison Park somewhere close to 10 a.m. for a couple minutes doing my video portion there. Fernando says off West 65th Street. Okay, let me, West Clinton. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to look that up on Google Maps. A lot of the streets sound familiar, but I'll have to look up West Clinton. So my guess is I probably have not covered that one. Sadie Lamp Duel says, did Lakewood Park do fireworks as 4th of July? I just assumed they did. I was speaking on the video yesterday as if they did, and I thought, I mean, they do a good job or great job cleaning up the debris, but I thought there was one little speck of something in the park where we were saying, like, what is that on the ground? And we were speculating that maybe it was a remnant of a firework debris. Richard says, I would like to go to Canton to see the Hall of Fame on my trip. Public transport doesn't look great there, so might rent a car. Yeah, I believe I've never been to the Hall of Fame. That's one of the things on my bucket list. It's like, come on, I gotta do that. But since I never had a car physically when I was in Cleveland, one day I'll have a car while I'm here. But once I do that, I'll be able to visit so many other places in the greater Cleveland area. But yeah, if you're able to get there, that'd be a great thing. I'll have to check. I know there's certain like metro buses that run every so often to Akron, but I'm not sure how frequently. It might just be once a day, and if it's in proximity to the Hall of Fame or not. But anyway, I've been standing here talking one of the reason I was coming up this way is just to talk more about the Cleveland Browns and the latest of it. As many of you know, I also, for many years, since 2006, have operated the Browns blog, Dogs by Nature. So that's one of my other side hobbies or side hustles. And we have a great team of contributing writers. One of them, named Thomas Moore, has been following the Browns move from Cleveland to Brook Park and all the cities back and forth, trying to keep them here. He's been following all those stories, so he's more the experts on it. If he didn't take on the expert thing, I would have done more of my due diligence, but he has been doing a great job reading up on that. I know he just did a podcast the other day, so feel free to check out Dogs by Nature. I believe the radio interview we did on that was just posted. If it wasn't just posted, it might be on social media. But anyway, the point of me bringing it up is, when I describe this, I'm just doing it in very basic, general terms, not the levels of details and order of time frame that he'd be able to talk about it as. But it sounds, like I was saying last Friday in the live stream, it sounds more and more likely, like I would put it at a very high 99 point whatever % chance that the Browns are moving to Brook Park. Their lease here doesn't expire, I think, until the end of the 2028 season. But the Browns, it's the reason they've been doing all this approval stuff now and getting everything ready, because it takes several years to build the stadium. So I think that would probably be the timeline, either 2028, 2029, when they would have the new stadium built. Cleveland's still trying to put up a fight. I mean, some of the most recent things that happened were on a state level. The state approved $600 million in unclaimed funds to be used toward the Browns' $2.4 billion stadium project, which, drew a bit of an uproar, like, hey, how are we going to use, unclaimed funds? So I think they said there was like a record surge of people who have not been pursuing their unclaimed funds are trying to do that now. When I was reading the article, though, it made it sound like it would be $600 million pulled from there, and then that particular $600 million, the Browns would have to pay back over whatever span of time based on revenue distributions. But nonetheless, that's one of the headlines. And then the other big one was that at the state level, they voted and changed the Modell law, because the Modell law, as it was previously written, said something to the effect of not moving outside the city of Cleveland. But then the Browns were like fighting and petitioning, because Cleveland was saying, hey, we're going to invoke the Modell law to keep you from moving to Brook Park. And then the Browns were like, no, come on, that's ridiculous. So they went to the state. Well, that's my perception, is they're the ones that pushed for it. And I believe the state amended it to where it now says, I don't know the exact language, but it basically says you can move, I think, within the same county, might be what they did. If it's not county, it's like greater Cleveland area, but it might be within Cuyahoga County, which is why they're like, all right, that was a victory for the Haslams, because they're like, all right, now the Modell law can't be used against us. But the last I read, I think the city a few days ago was still filing a lawsuit, still invoking the Modell law, and I think a Cuyahoga County judge did not allow the Haslams' request to dismiss that, and now the Haslams are taking it to, I thought I just read this earlier today, taking it to a federal level to try to just get this thrown out and dismissed so they can just proceed with the start of construction already. So a lot of little things going on, a lot of red tape, but ultimately, like I said, in the future, I think we can expect this gone. Well, I shouldn't say this gone. I don't know what they would do with this. I don't know if they would tear it down, try to repurpose it in some capacity, because they're supposed to be building like a soccer stadium for, I think it's like a minor league of MLS down near the flats, or at least that's what was one of the proposals and renderings I had been seeing. So I don't know if they would get rid of this, tear it down. Either way, the city is still trying to pursue its lakefront development long term, so they can develop the whole part of the lake in that area beyond what you see at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Like they want to make this a big public park setting and a draw, something to where Clevelanders and visitors would have to be like saying, hey, we got to go down to the lakefront. That's one of the top things. Because right now, when people are coming to Cleveland, it's like, all right, you got to go see the West Side Market. You got to go see the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You know, a few other things. Even something like this, it'd be nice if they're just walking around. It's nice to see. But there's absolutely no visitor to downtown Cleveland unless they're trying to just get a picture of the stadium. There's nothing to do down there. So that would be the ideal thing to make it a destination for tourists and locals alike. And really, geez, glad I just moved from there. One of those huge wasps just like took the spot where I was just standing. It really makes sense because, I mean, it's such a beautiful area, and big cities that are fortunate to have a lakefront thing have a pretty huge lakefront presence or water presence on the water. There's no reason why Cleveland can't do that. I mean, Cleveland to a degree has it on the river near the Flats East Bank. You know, you'd imagine something would succeed there. The only thing I worry about slightly is if they dip into the water element too much. Like the Flats East Bank is already successful. You have in the future down by Tower City behind Terminal Tower, the Bedrock Group still has plans and visions to redevelop that whole riverfront, and maybe not be so much for restaurants, but more of like a park-like setting. So you've got that potential project, and you've got this going on here. So hopefully you don't stretch things too thin. But that's the latest on the Browns portion of things. Now we're going to walk back from where we came from and head on over toward Rocket Arena area, where we'll talk about Cosm, Cleveland, and the latest headlines surrounding that. Let's see, I missed a few comments here. Richard says, yes, I was thinking of going to Akron for the Hall of Fame. Yeah, I know when the RTA was first joining the transit app, they held this was a few years ago, held a, what do you call it? Like a little thing at Public Square where they had little booths, informational booths. You could go up to the various transit systems here. And I talked to the IT guy who was trying to help integrate it, and he said at the time that they were trying to work something out where if you bought like an RTA all-day pass, for example, it could be used on RTA or transferred to Akron for the day, you know, to use on their system too. I don't know if that was ever successfully implemented. At the time, they made it sound like it was coming soon. My shoe is untied. I should have got my... Actually, I probably can still reach into my bag here and pull out my tripod. So give me 1 second. That way I can set the camera down without it going all haywire. By tripod, I mean this thing that expands out. I attach it to the bottom of my gimbal. Oh, this is probably the guy who was cutting the grass nicely on the other side that I was just pointing out. Quick water break too. All right. Look back at some of the other comments. Denise had said Browns leaving the lakefront is not a bad thing. The lakefront needs to be developed. Right, I think The only potential bad thing about them leaving was, I think initially they were hoping the Haslams would help kick in some funding to help develop the lakefront, and they could help build around it. I agree that if they are going to do a successful lakefront project, if they have a grand vision to make it successful, they could utilize that space to build, more stuff there. I thought there was something I had read too, I'm not sure how true it was, where I thought the Browns were telling the city, like, hey, we'll provide you some funding for the lakefront if you support the move to Brook Park. And I could be quoting that a little bit wrong, but it was something to that effect. And then the city supposedly was ticked off about that because they're like, hey, if you're going to make a donation or contribution, do it because you truly want to support the city, not because you're looking for a favor. But yeah, City Lamp Duo, when you said, can you zoom in on the lake? Sorry. Unfortunately, I was so busy in my narrating and wasn't reading the comments at the time that I missed out on that. Tom asked, has Cleveland ever been considered for a Major League Soccer team or NHL? I'm not sure, but I forgot to mention this the other day. Cleveland was just awarded a WNBA franchise along with Detroit and I forgot the third city. I think Cleveland's going to be the first of those three new cities to get the WNBA team. Now granted, we did have one of the, I think, original WNBA teams, the Cleveland Rockers, back in the day. So I don't know what their name will be, if it's going to be the Rockers again or if it'll be something else. But you see, and then I think that's going to be several years from now. That might be 2027, 2028, I can't recall what the article said. But that league is, thanks to Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, you're getting, for once, some like household names, even to casual basketball fans who want to see the highlights, and some of the fights that occur during those games, draw headlines, but people are getting into it more. Richard says, I'm looking forward to seeing the arcade. Looks like an amazing building. Yeah, certainly. I mean, architecturally, it's a great building. As far as, stuff to do inside the arcade, as I always say, it's sort of lacking. You more so just walk through it to admire the architecture. What else do we have here? Denise says Cosm Cleveland is going to be awesome. Yeah, when I get over there, I'll pull out some more of my papers to show that off. Some of the screenshots or renderings. Allocated Brain says, I love the Browns, but billionaire team owners should not get money from the public. Yeah. Can't go against that. That's how the rich get richer. Well, I mean, one of the things too is they know they can do it or apply for it, and they just wield their power to just get wealthier and wealthier. So all the business Richard says Cleveland doesn't have a great reputation, but looks like a nice city, what I've seen of it. Yeah, anyone who truly actually visits here ends up, well, when I say anyone, of course it's not 100% all-encompassing, it's a general phrase, but a lot of people most people I would say who come here and actually end up visiting and aren't looking to purposely troll the city end up coming away with the mindset of like, oh, that was way better than I expected, or I didn't know Cleveland had all this stuff and parks and water near it. I like how the walk sign just turned in our favor right on time here. Someone in one of the old Tower City video threads that I had, or videos that I had posted, was leaving comments the other day. Initially I was going a little bit back and forth with them, but then I said, ah, screw it, and I just stopped, because their first comment was something like, Cleveland, it's a shame, Cleveland is becoming a dying city, or will be a dead city before long, with like a frown face. You know, and all I did was respond saying something like, you know, I think they're doing a good job of thriving. You know, thriving might be a little bit of an overstatement, but you know, I always try to spin things positively. And then they responded with a comment saying, well, clearly you know nothing about municipal finances. And I replied saying, I forgot exactly what I said. It was something about just, you know, I'm just, you know, referring to the day-to-day activity I see in the city. And they started going on about, like, the worst school system in the country, most crime-ridden city in the country, something about, you know, they were listing like all these negative stuff, and I was like, you know what, I'm not even looking to respond to this guy. Or I think one of the other things they said was constantly shrinking population for 70 years, which, you know, a lot of those things could be valid points, but hey, purpose of this channel, I'm trying to spin things, not even spin, I'm trying to showcase all the positives, because there are a lot of positives in Cleveland. I'm just passing through the arcade where we started now, so that I can get over toward Rocket Arena. First we'll get up to Euclid Avenue. Right, Denise, that's how I like to look at it. We're on the verge of a renaissance. You know, it doesn't mean statistically everything's the best, but you also have to look at trends. I mean, the greater Cleveland area has grown substantially over the years. You know, there's a little... We'll look at the downtown area. They've done a good job of building a lot more housing so people can stay within downtown to help keep that revitalized. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of the neighborhoods still need a lot of work. We did a video on Central the other day, a couple weeks ago. And that neighborhood certainly needs a lot of housing work, and I didn't even showcase that part in the video, but I just did the perimeter where you didn't see the rundown houses. But every big city, in my estimation, is going to have some degree of that. I mean, I go to all these cities. I go to Seattle. Seattle, when I was there a few years ago, had a way bigger issue, in my opinion, than Cleveland, with places leaving. Yeah, I'm sure that's improved too. And that was regarding some of the remote work stuff. Tom asked, is there any kind of pedestrian mall in Cleveland? Pedestrian mall as in... What do you define as a pedestrian mall? You don't mean like indoor shopping mall? Because indoor shopping malls, I think the closest one to Cleveland that I think of is either... Well, I'm a West Sider too, so less familiar with the East Side, but West Side is North Olmsted, a Great Northern Mall, and then you also got Strongsville Mall in Strongsville. But as far as like outdoor, oh, where I'm walking now, just answer my question. Okay, yeah, East 4th Street. But so these are all restaurants on East 4th Street. If you want to see a few local businesses, that's a block or two down on the East 5th Street Arcade. Oh, so it looks like they've already done this, at least partway. I talked about this last month, that they were revamping Huron and Prospect to be one-way streets. So Prospect is now from East 9th going to Public Square a one-way street. So you can see it says do not enter in one way. So traffic's only allowed to go this way. And they have put what's kind of like a dedicated bike lane here. So this is, you know, your bike lanes. Unfortunately over there you already have, maybe they haven't continued the markings. No, it looks like they have, but you've got the post office vehicle and another vehicle blocking it. So, although now that I look at it a little closer, I think they do, maybe they are allowing parking there and it just becomes a single bike lane. I don't know if that's going to change. A little confusing. I don't know if this is temporary. I mean, it's permanent long term for making it a one-way street, but I'm just saying I don't know if this is the extent of turning it into a one-way street with the biking that they're going to do, or if they're going to change it up a little bit more. So the other big thing we wanted to talk about is this parking lot area right here, which has been a surface parking lot for years, and it's right outside of Rocket Arena. The trees are blocking it, but Rocket Arena, where the home of the Cavaliers is right beyond that. And then Progressive Field, home of the Guardians, is on the other side of that. But I'm going to go ahead and stop here, and since we're in the shaded area, and this will be a good spot to talk about this project. So within, I want to say the last week or so, that outstanding Northeast Ohio blog that I follow, it's called Neo Trans. They always have like the latest scoops on developments coming in the city and greater Cleveland area. So they had reported that the Bedrock Group, which is a branch of the real estate branch of Dan Gilbert's Rocket Company, that they were going to turn this into a project called like the Rock Block, and it was going to be like a mixed-use entertainment district area. Now, when they first came out with that article, the plans of what exactly would be here beyond that terminology were unclear. It was the only thing that some of the blueprints that were shown were depicting were they were going to take at least the parking lot area up until I think High Street. So like imagine from there going all the way, there's like a walkway area over there, all the way over there, and they were going to start excavating that. I'm not sure what the time frame is on this, but they're going to start excavating it and dig 15 feet deep, because I guess, I don't know the full history of all of what's been on this block, but it says there's a feeling that underneath this surface lot there's probably remnants of stuff that weren't quite cleared out, and they think that there's some stuff below there that could be undocumented even from like the past 200 years of remnants. So they want to dig 15 feet deep, excavate it fully, and then they're going to fill it with 7 feet of stone, or I forgot what material exactly, but that would be to help set the foundation for it. So that would be like the first phase of the project, and then, you know, down the road they would get the mixed use entertainment. And then shortly after that, which was kind of a surprise, we got the announcement of the first big thing that would be moving in there, and it's a place called Cosm Cleveland. It would be called Cosm or Cleveland Cosm, I'm not sure exactly the term, I guess Cleveland Cosm. And this is a sample of what it looks like in the city of Dallas. And this information that I'm going to read you came from that Neo Trans blog article when they were covering it. So it said, based on preliminary site plans secured by Neotrans, the external design of Dallas Cosm is comparable to what is planned for downtown Cleveland. The site plan revealed by Neotrans several weeks ago suggests that this will be the northwest corner of Cleveland Cosm, surrounded by new parking facilities and future development. So based on that, you can imagine if they build, this is the Dallas building right here, if they build a similar one, I believe I'm standing on the northwest quadrant of this project area. So like you can act like you're almost like looking at where it would have the signage and that. Like imagine you just dropped this right into here. And what exactly is Cosm Cleveland? This gives you a glimpse. It says it would be Cosm's 5th venue. They announced a 4th location in Detroit, which broke ground in April 2025. They have 2 open venues currently, one in Hollywood Park in Los Angeles and the other one in Dallas. And they recently began working on a 3rd venue in Atlanta. And it says it would offer a slate of live sport offerings, so NFL, college sports, NBA, baseball, WWE. And I don't know if you can tell from the screenshot, but it's sort of like an IMAX theater or big screen TV, but like more of a 3D look at, and it'll have the sound that makes you feel like you're really there. So you can see right here, there's on the lower half of the screenshot, there's a lot of seats. So let's say the Cavaliers are playing like a road game and you were like, hey, they're playing in Orlando today, but I really want to see or be part of the game or have drinks and food and just be a sports fan. Who knows? I don't know. I haven't researched if they have gambling facilities in here, but I would say I guess why not, because you can gamble on your phone through other methods like BetMGM. But anyway, you'd be sitting there and you just watch the whole Cavs game as if you're like having a front court seat. And you could do this for WWE events. Like WWE last night just had their Evolution number 2 pay-per-view, which is featured all women for the 2nd time in history, and it was really well done event with a lot of good matches. So maybe that's something they could air. They may have like, hey, we're gonna show the WWE event on the big screen TV, and you can act like you're there. So it's, in my opinion, it's acting like you're at the game without being truly there in person, if it's like a road type of thing that's not in your city. Although I'm sure they could also show local games here. Like, if I don't know how that would work. If the Cavs are playing in Rocket Arena, are they also going to have it showing here? I don't know enough about it to quite know that. But yeah, that would be that's a big project that would sort of anchor the mixed use thing. Supposedly there would be other things. In my mind, I was hoping like, when I went to St. Louis a few years ago, I raved about their ballpark district and the way it was set up. And they did have it wasn't a Cosm, with big screen TVs or anything like that, but they had, what was it called? Stadium, I think it was like Stadium Park, but the name is sort of escaping me. I'm not sure 100%. Ballpark Village, maybe that was it. Ballpark Village, where you went inside and they had like a bunch of restaurants that you could have live music in there. I think they did have some television screens, nowhere near the degree of that. But I always thought when I went to St. Louis, I was like, man, this is a concept that I wish could be replicated here in Cleveland, so that when there's a road game or something that you're not actively able to attend but still want to root for, that'd be like awesome. So that, I think a lot of people are excited for that. And again, because of the timeline of this, I'm not sure when it would exactly be open. Now, one of the other interesting nuggets, and this goes to the on Friday I was speaking about the Haslams versus Gilbert, meaning Browns versus Cavs ownership differences, because you can see a contrast. Granted, I don't know if Dan Gilbert himself is responsible for saying, I want to do this, because I'm sure he has a ton of people working for his company, but you have to imagine his vision is to help grow real estate in Cleveland and build projects here, and he's doing so in downtown Cleveland. So he's trying to strengthen the area. With this project, I talked about the one there's trying to get funding to develop the riverfront behind Tower City. there's also another project I'll try to talk about in a little bit. So he's, you know, putting his foot down and like trying to keep a lot of things in the downtown Cleveland area, whereas the Haslam's, it's like the opposite. They're taking their business out of downtown Cleveland and moving it to Brook Park. In the end, I think, you know, it could work out for everyone. But this is what I was going to mention, part of like the funny nature of business. This is the rendering that the Cleveland Browns released in one of their early renderings for their Brook Park Stadium. So you can see the stadium is there right in front of you. They got the plaza walking. But then what is this building to the left of the stadium? It says Cosm. So yeah, funny enough, this was also according to the Neotrans blog. In one of the early renderings that the Browns had, they were trying to showcase the mixed use things that would be built out there to help, you know, surround the stadium and build a whole new neighborhood of entertainment, hotels, restaurants, etc. So one of the things they wanted to and got permission to include in their rendering was Cosm Cleveland, because they were supposedly, I guess, negotiating with them, trying to get them to go to build their Cosm Cleveland in Brook Park. But you can see, based on the news this week, the Bedrock/Dan Gilbert group ended up winning out, and it's going to be here instead. So just a little amusing to find see the battle of the billionaires, so to speak. I haven't been by here for a little bit, but I know when they first had renamed it to Rocket Arena, I made a point of saying, like, oh, this, like, I was surprised how quickly they had changed the signage, but at the time they had only, on this part, taken down Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. I don't think the Rocket Arena labeling was up there, so that's good to see. See what the signage looks like. And there's one more thing I want to show on this beautiful Monday afternoon lunch break. Just give me 1 second. I want to set these papers down in my bag. Carol had also said, enjoying you in Maple Heights. Thank you, Carol. By the way, anyone watching, if you can smash that like button. I know most of you are subscribed to the channel, but if you haven't already, go ahead and do so. You know what's an interesting nugget I learned this week, or last week, where that, you know, used to be the LeBron banner that said witness. Now they just have various Cavalier banners over time. But someone made a point of saying, hey, you know, if you actually walk up to there's like an excavated area into the ground, like a hole in the ground. So someone was saying, what, like, why is it like that? And the people who had responded said that it was due to, initially there was like a fourth building plan there, so I guess, I don't know if those are considered like 2 or 3 separate buildings, but they said the plans was like, oh yeah, let's add another building right in that space, and I guess it just never ended up happening. I thought that was a neat little bit of trivia. Oh, so I also get to see the bigger Rocket Arena signage up top. So now I have to think, I have to look back at Google Maps. Sometimes I am wrong when I have these instincts, but my instinct right here is like, this seems new to me. Seeing the Cavs picture opportunity in front of it, or in front of the Rocket Arena. You've got the walkway to RTA Tower City Station there, although, like I've mentioned before, that walkway theoretically should be closed right now. That's supposed to only be open prior, during, and after events that are taking place either at Rocket Arena or Progressive Field. And there's definitely no Guardians games happening right now because they are into the All-Star break as of today. And the Cavaliers are busy doing their summer league in Las Vegas. I don't know if we're going to be able to get a glimpse of this because of construction. I'm trying to think of the best way to cross the street. Well, oh, by the way, WWE SmackDown, speaking of events, is July 25th in Rocket Arena. So if you want to see favorite wrestling superstars in action on a Friday evening, be sure to check that out. Guardians, I thought they were dead and buried. That's what I was talking about last Friday. They had that 10-game losing streak. And just about when you're like, oh, you know what, let's put the nail in the coffin, put a pin in the season, they go out and sweep the near AL American League leading, oh, I guess Detroit's probably leading, but they sweep the Houston Astros, take 3 out of 4 against the White Sox, have the Athletics coming up after the All-Star break, and now all of a sudden they're still just 4.5 back of a wild card spot, which I'm not complaining about. It's like I'd rather us contend than not. Oh, I was gonna go over there, but now it's a sidewalk closed. Yep, I guess I'm not going to be able to show it. What I was going to do was go over there and try to look downward for you guys to showcase some of the construction, because otherwise it's sort of a dead area. Well, since I'm not able to go down there, let me go back in the shade while I talk about this. Maybe I can enjoy the sprinklers, catch a little mist from them. There we go, now we're in the shade. So this isn't excuse me. This is not a new headline, but I really haven't had a chance to mention it. But down on the river, if you can imagine, sort of below that area is the Cuyahoga River, and you have multiple parts of it. You have some that go near the Platts East Bank. You have the area where Scranton Peninsula, which I think is where Brewdog is. I've done a video there in the past, and they're building new housing units on Brewdog. But then if you go even to the other side of the river, which is this last strip that's down here, that's the area where I viewed as being like most deserted, in my opinion. But a few years ago they announced that they were going to be building a Cleveland Clinic Global Peak Performance Center. And I believe it's going to also be home of the Cavaliers practice facility. I think they'll be moving from Independence, and it's supposed to be a performance or rehab center for local athletes around, you know, the whole greater Cleveland area. I don't know if it'll be open to other people or what the stipulations are on that or the funding, but I guess probably just the Cleveland Clinic thing in general regarding rehab. But that's going to be, you know, a big project down there. So they're going to, you know, if they're building that nice of a facility, they're going to want to make the neighboring area look nice. So you can see the plans for the riverfront area, some of the landscaping. That's only like one component of it, and that is sort of supposed to be what bridges with the Dan Gilbert Bedrock project that would go from Tower City, and then they want to expand the landscaping all the way across the riverfront where it can be walking, biking, nice trees, and, you know, other paths to get straight up back to Tower City. They want to build it all the way to this. So this is sort of the project that's ongoing now. If I would have been over there, what I was going to show is I think I saw an article this week that said they had topped out the beams. That's what it looked like based on the pictures. They had topped out what like the external structural beams would be on this building. So then they were going to start, you know, encasing it and doing whatever other construction. So that was the other big thing to point out, that that project is coming more and more to fruition as well. After I put this away again, I'll try to check out the comments. Actually, let me try to do this to give like a little cool effect while I grab a drink of water. You guys can check out the sprinkler. My water bottle is all gone now. Let's just catch up on comments again. WC says, I enjoy watching you periodically from Naples, Florida. I was a real estate broker in Cleveland for 30 years. Nice. Glad you still enjoy checking out the city and the latest things going on. Oh, and so I've been pointing out the Rocket Arena signs. They have one that's kind of hiding behind those trees, and then they have one more over there. There are some guardrails up ahead, so I don't know if I can get through there. Richard says, does the baseball stadium do tours in the off season? I think they probably do tours. I just am not keen on exactly like when they do them, and so but if I would just look on their website and try to see what they say about that. They might be replacing during the All-Star break more of those seats from green to blue, because I see some tarps over a few of them. Sadie Lamp Duo asked, is Riot Guitars still open? I'm not familiar with Riot Guitars. And then he also asked, did they put fire retardant in the Cuyahoga River too? Hopefully. That's the butt of the joke that too many people from outside always think of, saying how Cleveland is home of the burning river. You know what's interesting is this has always been a cool seating area for, like, it's got like the food and stuff, and I wonder if it looks like he's working on like repair work on the stuff. That's another, if that's indeed what he's doing, like repairing it or restoring it. That's one of those things that's just cool when you're able to capture it live. I was talking about this last Friday during my live stream. how when I was in Utah, they were in the middle of removing a Donovan Mitchell mural that I knew it existed there, but I just happened to be stumbling by. So I was like, oh, it's kind of interesting to be able to see that live as opposed to one day going by and be like, oh, what happened to the mural? It's like one of those things where you can just claim that, like, hey, I was actually there for it. Or like last weekend, on the Friday, I said I saw the final bit of scaffolding in the morning being removed from the City Club apartments. So I got to be, instead of having gone there later in the day and wondering like, oh, I wonder when they took down this scaffolding, I was able to give like a first-hand report that, like, hey, they had just taken this down. And they're putting up more guardrails here. And what do we got going on over there? Are they like putting clay in the gaps on the side of the brick building? Or whatever term would be used for it. So this road should be a one-way street as well. We have traffic only going one way. Although I don't know if they've implemented that yet, because you still have traffic down there. Maybe it only starts this going this way, and you can still go that way. And after the Rock Block area, they do have, you can see the bike lanes already painted here. Whether or not this is like I said earlier, a fully finished type of project, I'm not sure. Is this... Oh yeah, so this is what I was talking about last time. Improving how Clevelanders move throughout downtown. So this is the road that we're on, you know, facing that way. On Huron. And then this would be Prospect that we saw earlier. So that definitely is a one-way going Prospect, and that's active. This should be one-way going this way, with the 2 bike lanes, the 2 driving lanes, and then the parking and loading section. The thing that was still confusing is once you got down here, we saw that USPS postal truck there. I forgot to mention this last time too. One of the big components of this project is that they were supposed to be enhancing the ability for businesses to have patios, or maybe make it feel safer doing like patios for their outdoor dining. I don't think that's an extension to the street for the patios. It might just be that if this is not a vehicle lane, maybe you feel a little bit safer that traffic's pushed off to the side. It is kind of a little confusing though, right? If you only have 2 lanes of traffic, you got the bike lane here, then what are these two things in the middle? And if this parking lot is temporarily still being used, for example, is that for cars to get in and out of the parking lot, or are they just not going to open that entrance? And I don't know too, are there any like little alleyways around here that cars would have to be going in and out of? I guess I was thinking of walking this way initially, but maybe I'll just walk. Why don't I walk up this way and we'll check it out fully. Because that side of the street over there wouldn't be an issue, since that's where the traffic is, so you could pull in and out of the parking garage. What I was trying to see was sometimes there's these little alleyways. Oh, so I guess this is what the center lane is going to be used for, valet. So the valets that previously may have been here, now we pull over there in the valet markings, at least on this portion. Well, what about these cars here? But then trying to think how this works. Maybe this is where they're going to try to expand the patios out into the street for the long term, so these businesses like Buffalo Wild Wings or City Tap can go and take advantage of this, because previous to that, that's not where the, you know, there weren't any bars over there. And that does, once you do that, that does have it where you maintain the 2 lanes of traffic. There's no awkward gap in the middle, and now you do have the bike lanes over there. Although I guess this could be the truck loading zone area too. And over there you've got Rally House, Whistle Pizza. The sidewalk gets bigger over there, so presumably the need for more patio space is less needed, you know, especially on the corner there. And then that brings us back up to where Huron meets Prospect, and this is where vehicles that are going down Huron, if they want to go on to Prospect, they would go and stay in the left lane and continue on. And I guess that makes sense why they have a cone there. I was just say, either way, this is like a dip thing, so hopefully they work on that sidewalk there. So let me think about this. It turns, initially it's only 1 lane. Oh no, I see. So vehicles that are coming straight through from the other end of Prospect or making a turn off of East 9th would start off in the right lane. You have the bollards that maintain that separation, and then it sort of like comes together as a second lane. Then you have this as the bike lane that goes down for much of it up until what we saw earlier. And then if you're on Huron but in the right lane, you then come out here, but you pick, that's kind of a interesting to think about. So you're coming out from 1 lane, and then there's 3 lanes in a short period for you to decide on. Do you go wide and take a left-hand turn on the East 9th, go in the middle lane to keep going straight, or go in this right lane to turn right? I don't know if I've quite seen that before, where 1 lane in such a short stretch turns into 3 potential lanes that you need to make the right decision for. I think that will do it for today's live stream. I think between last Friday and today we covered a lot of the latest happenings in downtown Cleveland. Allocated Brain says shout out to the East 9th Street Sewer.
So I can go in that door and get past
you always want to see what the busiest street in downtown Cleveland is, I always say that it's, in my opinion, East 9th Street by far. I am pretty much finished, like I said, with the live stream, but because I'm walking back towards CSU and because I'm in the shade on this side of the street, I guess I'll keep it rolling for a little bit. See what the latest books featured in the window display at Clevo are. How to Get Over a Breakup, an Ancient Guide to Moving On. The Adventures of Tintin, Land of Black Gold, Around the World in 80 Days, No Longer Human, Heidi, The Book of Five Rings, The History of Sexuality, Volume 1, an Introduction, How to Make Money, an Ancient Guide to Wealth Management, Plato Laws, A Very Easy Death, The Tale of Genji, Mafalda, Man's Search for Nothing, Black Skin, White Mask, and Asterisks. And they have some more books sort of featured over there. And like I said last Friday when I started the live stream outside of here, shout out to Downtown Dental Services. Always do a nice job accommodating me and cleaning my teeth. To get there, you just go inside that doorway under 1110. And then press number 2, and then they open the door and you take the elevator or stairs up to the second floor and go into the dentist office. That's, you know, if you have an appointment already, of course. Well, let's take a look at some rental prices at the Athlon. Where is the Athlon? Is that here? A Euclid-facing apartment speaks to those. I guess it's here, based on that symbol. We'll just assume that these are spaces in here. So you get a 1,092 square feet for $1,925 a month. A little over 1,100 square feet for $2,150 a month. $2,000 a month gets you a, well, that one's a bigger one, but it's cheaper, so $1,200. So let's see here, why is this different? This one has 2-bedroom with dedicated dining room. This one you get natural light galore, 2-bedroom, 2-bath. A suite, 1,000 feet for $2,000 a month. Well, here's your cheaper ones, where everything's kind of like in one area. Only 564 square feet. That's $1,300 a month. If I was going to live in the downtown area, I'd be perfectly fine with something compact like that. When I was a little kid, I always imagined oh, if I lived by myself, I thought it'd be cool to have stuff in a small area and make efficient use of my space. 542 square feet for $1,350 a month. And most of the rest of these are just similar units. 1 bedroom, 1 bath, $1,300 a month. A little bit quieter now around this area than earlier, since we're past the traditional lunchtime hours. If you're in downtown Cleveland and really looking to capture the most, because when I visit a city, sure, it's fun to explore, but like, you don't want it to be super crowded like your sardines, but you like seeing people out and about. So come down on a weekday at lunchtime between maybe 12 to 1:30, I'd say. And then throughout the city, you're to get good amount of people out, especially near the restaurants. And then on the weekend, or if there's a sports event going on, certain parts of the downtown area will be busy. Alright, since they got music playing on the speaker there, I don't want to get a copyright, so I'll go ahead and sign off the stream here at Playhouse Square. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we will see you next time.